Hello, welcome to my short presentations concerning the STAR method. I am Martin Rekers and I will try to enlighten some of the aspects of this STAR model. But before we start, I would like to invite you to write down what you already know about the STAR method in order to be able to activate your knowledge you already have. Please try to write down some key concepts you already know. So take a short break from this presentation and write these down. Okay, when you've written down what you already know, let's proceed with looking at the STAR model. Obviously, STAR invites you to make a visualization of a star, and you'll see it in this slide. The STAR model is used in assessment settings to assess the performance of people, students, candidates in an application, or even your own performance if you want to. You can write your own performance down in the form of a star. Each of the components of the STAR model are key to the method as a whole. You cannot do without any of them, and you cannot order the order. You cannot alter the order of the concepts of the STAR model. It starts with a situation. It's the context in which the performance is taking place. The task is what the candidate has to do in that specific situation. The behavior, the action, is the behavior, what he or she exactly does in order to accomplish the task, and the result is what his action lead to in terms of effects, positive effects or negative effects for that matter. And the reflection obviously is linked to what results did you get in comparison to what you had to do in the task. The STAR model is the assessment method. What you assess is your behavior or the behavior of a candidate, and the assessment is that behavior is mostly used to assess certain competencies. You don't need to assess competencies. It's not a written down law or something like that, but in educational settings, competencies are often used to make clear what talents, what qualities a student has. And for in organizations, often competency profiles are used as well. So you can also use it in application situations, and the STAR model is used in behavioral interviewing in application procedures. Maybe you have encountered one already, or more, perhaps even. Oh. It's a kind of a sample approach. Obviously, you cannot make clear or make visual all the behavior a certain candidate does in a certain situation. You have to take a sample of it, but of course this sample has to be representative for the whole performance. So you have to think very thoroughly about what kind of sample you want to take. And I made it visual by putting a picture of a cheese in the slide. And of course, when you're taking a sample of the cheese in the slide, you have also to make certain that the sample you take is representative for the whole cheese. Let's look a little bit further into this STAR description. As I said, these letters, these components of the STAR are all essential, are all key to the model. It's used to make your talent visible, your qualifications, your competencies, or whatever you would like to call them. And the situation describes what is going on in this situation and what is professional critical about it. Professional critical situation is a situation in which the core elements of the task of a professional is performed. So if you want to assess me, you wouldn't want to observe me or wouldn't want me to write down a star about how I make photocopies. You would like to see me teaching. So this video could be used as an assessment method as well, as the source of information to assess whether or not I'm a good teacher or not. So you have to have in each professional content a certain example of a professional critical situation you want to assess. For instance, a salesman, you would want to know what sales he succeeded to make. And obviously you do not look into a situation where the client was very happy to take the product to begin with, so not much convincing took place. When you want to judge, to assess a salesman, you take a critical sale. So a situation in which the client wasn't ready to buy at first hand. The salesman had to do something to convince his client to the sale. Also, it's important to establish whether or not the candidate was alone in the situation or in some sort of collaboration. Because if the latter is the case, you would like to isolate the performance of this candidate to the collaboration, so that you don't get any descriptions of we did this or we did that. No, you would prefer to have a situation in which the candidate is able to tell, I did this in order to cooperate. But this was my share in this cooperation. So the share of the candidate you're assessing in the cooperation has to be visible in order to assess it properly. And then it's important to establish what precisely was the task the candidate should perform. That is necessary because otherwise you wouldn't be able to assess the behavior, because the behavior should lead to the accomplishment of the task. So when you know the task, you can ask, okay, this was your task, what did you do? This is behavior in concrete observable terms. And this behavior leads to something, the results. What were the effects of your action? And what did others say of your results? And this results you can compare to the task. And that leads to the reflection. What went well? It's very useful if the candidate has some criteria in which he is able to assess his own performance. I did this well because. This could be improved because. The improvement I made was this and that. And I tried this out there and then. And if you do that in this manner, you can get this diagram. And I call it star slightly different because in my experience, students often fill in this like it was a form. And they start to think. They start to think hard about, what should I write down here? What should I write down there? And there is no much consistency in a star then. And when they do that, the star is virtually useless. These elements have to be glued together. They belong together. So, critical situation, what was it what you had to achieve in that critical situation? What did you do in order to achieve that in that critical situation? And what precisely were your results in that specific situation? And when you do it like this, you can compare the results to the task. How does T, the task, relate to the R, the results? And this leads to, okay, now I can judge what went well, and I can think of arguments to put in. This is, I think it went well because of A, B, and C, and also I can establish what can be improved including arguments why it should be improved, but also how it could be improved. Sometimes you see a T added to the STAR model, the T of transfer, and it means you can also ask what a candidate has learned from the specific situation, has learned to use in other situations as well. And when a person gives an example of this, you can start another star if you want. Okay, you did that? Tell me. It's also very useful to have an open eye for terms that are too vague to assess. For instance, when I say I'm an enterprising person, I do not enlighten what is enterprising about me. So it's better to give an example of my enterprising activities. In this case, I've organized an international cartoon festival in Rotterdam all by myself, including a competition in which professional cartoonists from 32 different countries participated. And I invited these cartoonists myself. And I've raised 40,000 euros to organize it. It gives some meat to the bone, you could say, of my enterprising activities. And then, I'm creative is not as convincingly as an example of it. I managed to get free hotel accommodation for my prize-winning cartoonists by painting a hotel room from bottom to ceiling with cartoons I designed. It gives also a little bit of meat to the bone, you could say. An example of what was my creativity. Where did it consist of? Some other examples of this. Vague terms on the left side, more concrete on the right side. My presentation hit like a bomb. Well, probably it did, but I have to believe the other person. It's more convincingly when you say the evaluation I made showed the participants thought I was able to visualize complex concepts effectively. An example of such a visualization is, and so on. You can make it, you can enlighten it. My internship very well, probably it did, but when you say my coach said I was able to integrate feedback immediately in my actions, and a striking example of this is, and you can give it, it's very much more convincing. And my coach said I'm very creative. More convincingly is, and this is an example a student of mine gave me, he said, I've developed an app that makes it possible to follow your route on the city map. I used it to motivate obese youth to walk the word Feyenoord as big and as fast as they could. There was a rating in which they could follow each other's achievements. And it led to the trendy competition amongst youth in the south of Rotterdam. And it helped to reduce obese, and that was my goal in the first place. And in the opinion of my coach, this was very creative. You can see that this example gives far more insight in what the creativity was than just the word creativity. Okay, we're coming to the end of this presentation, and I would like to invite you to answer these questions. What topics in this presentation you were already familiar with? And what topics in this presentation were new to you? And how would you like to use the information in this presentation, in your work? You could also add, if you want to, what criticism I could give to this presentation. Where do I agree? Where don't I agree? And what are my arguments? And you can discuss it in real time with me if you like to. Okay, thank you for your attention for this little video clip.